You're listening to Parasearch UK Radio. News, views and reviews from the world of the paranormal from across the UK and beyond. Find us on Facebook, Twitter and the World Wide Web. Parasearch UK Radio.
The views and opinions expressed by presenters and guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of Parasearch UK Radio or its affiliates and sponsors. Listener discretion is advised.
You're listening to The Spirit Dimension with your host, Kerry Greenaway, right here on Parasearch Radio.
Good evening and welcome to the Spirit Dimension. My name is Kerry Greenaway and I know I sound a little husky tonight. I have a very heavy cold, so please forgive me. So tonight I'm joined in the studio by Mr. Ashley Knibb. Good evening, Ashley, and how are you?
I'm all right, thank you.
Okay. We're flying by the seat of our pants a little bit because we hoped to have Mr. Cal Cooper in the studio with us. Unfortunately, there seems to have been a misunderstanding in regards to when Mr. Cooper was coming online with us, and he hasn't responded to any of my messages. So we are flying by the seat of our pants and seeing what kind of happens, aren't we, Ashley?
Oh, a little bit, yeah. Sorry if I'm a bit... I'm right.
And now Ashley seems to have dropped the call. Now that's very interesting. I know you're still there.
I'm still here. I'm just kind of piecing together some bits in the background. Talk amongst yourselves for a minute.
Okay. So, oh my goodness, I really didn't need this tonight. Is all I'm saying. Now we was hoping to get Mr. Cal Cooper online tonight. And we are still trying in the background to sort of like, raise him up from the dead. So we thought what we'd do is we'd just like see where the conversation takes us to start with. And hopefully at some point we can pull together a show. So Ashley, how has your week gone this week?
It's not been too bad. Been a bit busy at work, as you think, but that's what's going to do with paranormal, really, is it? So,
not really.
No. And probably no help whatsoever. Yeah, it's been all right. I've been doing a bit of reading. I've been reading a book by Dean Radin on entangled minds at the moment.
Entangled
That's to do with the
minds.
paranormal.
That is to do with the paranormal. That is. Well, I'm still ploughing my way through a book on poltergeists, which is a fascinating topic.
It is. I like that topic, actually. It's a very good topic.
It is. So let's talk a little bit about poltergeists.
Sure. Yeah, sorry, go on. Throw a question at me and I'll do what I can. So I'm multitasking, and as I'm a bloke, it's difficult.
Oh my God. Oh my God. So poltergeists are obviously noisy ghosts. That is a well-known meaning of the word. German, yes. Entomology.
German.
Started in Germany. Well, the book I'm reading is by a guy called Colin Wilson, who's a well-known member of the SPR. And he came up with the theory that, and it's a theory I've brought to the fore before now when talking to guests, is that he feels that there needs to be a male and a female energy to be able to manifest that kind of energy, to actually move objects in that way. What's your take on that?
I'm not entirely sure. It's a weird one because I'm not entirely sure whether I agree, because I don't 100% know. But at the same time, I'm not entirely sure whether I disagree, if that makes sense as well. I mean, I know that's a sitting on the fence kind of an answer, but Oh, no. Okay. Sorry. Yeah, so still on the fence, kind of an answer, but I think personally, I don't think that it has to be necessarily a male or female energy. I think it just needs to have the right environment and individual's personal ability, sort of thing. And I know we put this we always stage this around teenage. Well, the usual one is teenage girls, isn't it? Mostly. I think we've looked at different cases, me and you, where we've seen it where we think it manifested originally in a teenage boy, but then that's where this has come from, because we're in the house at the same time as also an elderly person. I'm not going to say which case that is right now because I'm just using it as an example. But that kind of makes sense in the male-female kind of aspect of it. But I don't know whether I'm sold on that, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. It's a distinct possibility, because if you look at certain cases like the Enfield poltergeist, like 30 East Drive and stuff like that, they do have those two sort of elements to them. So yeah, I wouldn't discredit it, but at the same time, I'm not sure I'm 100% there with that one yet. So, but then I suppose that's like any theory. So yeah,
I find it an interesting concept that it needs the male-female energy.
Yeah, that is quite interesting in the fact that it kind of ties in with a few belief systems, doesn't it, as well?
It does. It does seem to. So where does belief system lead us? Because belief system is such a strange thing that and sometimes you have a belief system you don't even realise that you've got in place when you start exploring different avenues. And it does have such a huge part to play in regards to how you view activity, doesn't it?
Yeah, I suppose it would do. Yeah, because it formulates your understanding of what's going on around you. So, the belief systems of religion, things like that, education, understanding of the world, what influences from family groups and social groups and stuff like that, all have an impact on how you take in all this element of it. It's kind of how I kind of see these kind of bits. So I'm sorry, I'm not very good. I'm kind of just doing a quick bit of multitasking. I don't think, looking at this, I don't think Cal's going to be, unfortunately, he's not going to be able to join us tonight. But I'll see if I can get him to reschedule with you at some point, Kerry.
Oh, yeah, definitely. That would be fantastic. Well, there's nothing we can do. So we're going to have to just fly with this tonight. So going back to belief systems, what was your take on that?
I think they're very important in not just poltergeist cases, but in a lot of paranormal cases and understanding of bits and pieces, telepathy, the whole shebang. I think belief is an integral part of it all. To be fair, I'd think that you have to look at that element of it when investigating it. So if you're taking a poltergeist case, for example, then I think you have to look at that element of it when you go into that sort of aspect as well. So that's a very important sort of thing to look at. So you say, for example, you're investigating a family home who thinks they've got a poltergeist case, and I think understanding their belief systems and what's going on in that house and how they understand the world around them is equally as important as understanding what's going on in their home.
I don't disagree with that. I think belief system is a huge point that needs to be looked at in regards to if there is phenomena occurring. But I also think that sometimes things will happen regardless of your belief system, and it's your belief system that makes you question things.
And I agree with that, yeah. So you're saying that your belief system may make you misinterpret things that are going on or question things that are going on for another aspect. Again, sorry. I'll get this closed up, this call, and then I can focus 100% then.
What I'm saying is, basically, if you had phenomena occurring and your belief system is such that you come from a very normal, I suppose, like every day, you don't believe that there's life after death, you just carry on, and there's what you see is what you get kind of situation, then you get phenomena. That's going to throw many, many questions up in your mind. Or if you are experiencing I don't know, voices in your head that aren't your own. That is incredibly challenging to your own mental well-being. So it throws up questions for you and makes you question things within yourself.
Yeah, I think, and wasn't that the oh God, I can never remember what the film's called now. Is it The Haunting of Emily Rose?
Oh, well, that was where she was allegedly possessed, wasn't it? But she had a lot of mental health. She had a lot of physical issues, like she had epilepsy and other things as well. And then her medication, the side effects of her medication was so extreme that they now, looking at that case, think it was more to do with that than it was the fact that she was actually possessed by demons.
Yeah, I think it's actually based on a German. I think it's actually based on a German case, or the Amelia Mitchell. I can't remember. I can never. I have to look it up afterwards. But I'm pretty sure it's based on a German case. And if anyone in the chat room knows the true case, then please shout it out so Kerry can pick it up. Yeah, you're absolutely right. She was suffering from epilepsy or other bits and pieces, and she had medication caused a lot of the issues that we believe. But I think she came from a background where her belief system was such that they went more towards the possibility of it being a possession type haunting kind of environment, rather than believing in modern science and medical aspects of it. So that's where kind of the argument I can make there is like, where the belief system can go too far to the wrong side, and not allow for modern technology or modern medicine to intervene and help out. Now, I'm not saying that modern medicine is always right either, because it might not be. But I think we have to find that happy balance between it all, don't we? We have to try and find out between the individual's belief, and that's what I'm saying. We have to understand an individual's belief is to understand why they might come to certain understandings themselves, and then we can sort of assess that from the outside. And that's why it's always important to look at the facts that you've got. So when you do like a medical examination, they know certain facts. And epilepsies, you can find that out by doing things like EEGs, ECGs, things like that, to understand what's going on with the brain activity and all that kind of stuff. And other medical elements can be found out through other examinations and stuff like that to find out what's going on there. So, yeah. It was
Annalise Michelle.
That's the one. Yep. So I was
that
close.
was her name. But she actually, as I say, it started off with a seizure that was similar to that caused psychosis, and then they went down the religious route, didn't they? And tried to exorcise her. But it was, if you read about that case, it's incredibly scary, because they treated her with so many different types of Western medicine that it was a problem. It became a real problem and actually made the situation worse.
Yeah, it's been a while since I've seen the film or read about this case, so I'm a bit rough around the edges on it. But yeah, you're absolutely right. I think it went completely out of control, didn't it? In the aspect of following down the possession route and all that kind of stuff. If I'm right, wasn't it an unsanctioned exorcism and stuff as well?
I think she ended up going through something like 11 different exorcisms. It wasn't just like one.
Wow.
I think they put her through so many different exorcisms, and the amount of times she was put this. Actually, sorry, I stand corrected on this one. She's 67 rites of exorcism over a period of 10 months. Over time, the ligaments in her knees ruptured due to 600 genuflections that she performed obsessively during each exorcism session. I'm so sorry. I was so blocked up, it's untrue. Yeah, that is an awful lot.
That is, yeah, that alone is going to add to the psycho. Not that I'm an expert on, unfortunately, I'm not an expert on psychology, but yeah, that's surely going to add to the mental instability within that situation. At some point, that's going to cause more harm than good, isn't it? So we're all going through all that.
I think so. I mean, gosh, when you think about it, that is
traumatic.
Incredibly traumatic for her. I mean, 67 in 10 months.
And then mindset as well. If you're going through that and with the belief that after it, you'll be cleared and the evil spirits will be gone, but then they come back again, that must really continue to knock you down and knock you for six over and over and over and over again. But that's a ridiculous Wow.
But going back to belief systems, her apparently her family was raised as strict Catholics.
Oh, right, okay. So they would have gone through the Catholic Church. I believe they go through. I think they're quite. Well, they're supposed to be quite, stringent about when they do exorcisms and stuff like that. So, and they're supposed to include medical assessments and stuff like that before they engage with them, I believe.
Wow.
Well, again, no expert. But I've read
I know. Yeah. I know. It's crazy, isn't it? Now, Richard Clements in the chat room has said, I don't think you have to believe in life after death to have a belief in the paranormal or to observe and investigate paranormal phenomena. No, I don't. I don't disagree with you. I don't think you have to believe in life after death, but 9 times out of 10, someone's had an experience, which is what's brought them into investigating the paranormal.
Yeah, no, I'd agree with that. Yeah, I mean, I got into the paranormal. If I trace it all the way back, I mean, I had a very kind of an open sort of investigative research kind of background sort of thing. So I ended up looking into unknown stuff anyway. But I mean, it was an experience. I think it was an experience that kind of helped fuel that. And then later on in life, when I done my first overnight investigation on like an event, and because something happened on that first investigation, that first overnight event investigation, I think that helped fuel a bit more to make me think, oh, I'm gonna do this more and understand more. I think on that first event, if nothing had happened, I would have been less inclined to carry on doing overnight investigations. But because something did, it kind of like bolstered it all together, and I was like, oh, this is brilliant, and then carried on doing that, and then done overnight investigations. So yeah, I think belief systems or understanding or experiences and stuff like that can definitely help bolster all this kind of stuff together.
I think it's one of the things that needs to be considered, but shouldn't be taken as in stone when you're investigating, because as I say, things will happen that will throw your belief systems into disarray sometimes. And I've had this recently myself when I was trying to connect to a different spirit guide, and it came in a form, I've talked about this before, it came in a form that wasn't what I would necessarily, without even realising it, have thought a spirit guide should have appeared to me as it were. And I banished it because it wasn't in the form I kind of was expecting, if that makes sense. It weren't just like a fluffy animal or, a humanoid form. It came as something quite different from that. And so I did a banishing because I thought it was a nice thing that I'd managed to connect to, I suppose you would call it. So when I then re-looked at that, I suddenly thought, actually, I didn't even give it a chance to talk to me. I just sort of was like, no, go away. But that's where I didn't realise I had that belief system in place, that a spirit guide should conform to a specific, a specific look, I suppose you want to call it. Because all my beliefs up to that point, without even realising it, had sort of set that expectation in place. So then I had to go and do some work and then reconnect to this guide. And actually now, when I'm in the field, that's one of the guides I connect to the most rather than my original guide. And it's a completely different vibe now when I'm working with that particular guide. And it's still a very early scenario with that guide. But that's a very spiritual way of working. And that is how I work in the field. I work in a very spiritual way. And I use a lot of tools to help me with that, crystals being one of them. And it's, as I say, going back to the belief system side of it, it's only because it didn't conform to what I didn't even realise was a belief system or an expectation that it freaked me out when I first connected to that. So what's your take on that?
Guides. Right. I quite like this show because this is kind of like how my mind works. It kind of goes way over here, no over there. No. So yeah, I'm all right with this at the moment. Well, let's do guides, Kerry. Let's do it.
Go on then.
Right.
Come on then, Ashley.
Right.
What's your view on that?
I'm not in a disbelief about guides because I've spoken to, as people probably know, I have quite a lot of dealings with mediums and stuff like that, and most of them have guides in some shape or form. Some of them tell me who they are, some of them don't, and some could say that some of the spirits that are often picked up around me, if you like, could be guides or helpful relatives looking after me, that kind of stuff. Not that I've ever seen them myself. Boo. But I kind of like the idea of guides, but there's kind of a devil's advocate thing I'm going to play here. Our guides are part of our unconscious mind that we give personality to in order to accept the information that we're receiving from that part of our unconscious, in order to, trust it a little bit more, if you like. So it's like, that gut feeling, that intuition, rather than thinking it might be a gut feeling or intuition and kind of disregarding it sometimes. If we give it a personality or make it into a guide, we can accept that information a bit more and believe in it, and then then run with it a bit easier. Obviously, that takes a belief system, but that could be one understanding. So it could be part of our own personality, so to speak, that these guides are. Or they could be completely separate entities, as many of my medium friends, probably including yourself, my cousin probably included in that, good friend Mark Richardson probably as well, could be a completely separate entity that helps them and shows them stuff and works with them as well, because obviously some of these guides come and go, from what I work out and back in. I'm no expert, you lot are. Some of them come and go, some of them stay for a long, long time. Others seem to stay almost all the time and work with mediums and stuff like that, almost as a second part of them. So that's where I kind of get this whole unconscious thing. But then don't think that I'm attributing these guides to being part of the unconscious, as in within the mind, within the brain, because I think it's more within the mind, and then I don't 100% think that the mind element is connected to the physicality part, the physical element of the brain itself as well. So maybe the mind is an extension of ourselves into the ether, as Sir Oliver Lodge called it, or just a part of the whole, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Wow, that went a bit deep there.
Well, you did go quite deep there. My viewpoint is there's a little bit of us in our guides, and there's a little bit of them within us. So there's part of that connection that is that connection, but they are also their own entity as well. Because some of the information that comes forward when you're working with them, in however way you work with them, bearing in mind I don't work with mine in a mediumistic way.
Yeah.
They don't bring forward members of the family and stuff to talk to me. They work through me in a different way. So there is some of yourself in that, but there's a lot of them. Because some of the messages they give you, where does that, other than it being a telepathic interaction.
Good.
I know. Well, I boomed telepathic interaction out into this conversation. Oh, God. Can you see where I'm going with that? So there is sort of a slight crossover there, but not as much as it just manifesting from your own psyche. Oh, I'm so sorry. I've got this stinky cold.
That's all right. Yeah. So you're saying that guides could be part of us, but equally part of another entity, brought sort of, but like a. I was going to link back into that book that I mentioned right at the beginning of the show. So like an entangled mind sort of thing, or an entangled sort of thing. So there's a connection obviously between you and this entity, and because that connection is there, you draw off each other.
Yeah, that's right.
So does that not mean then? So as equal as they're giving you information and helping you out, you could equally be giving their information to help them out in whatever time space they exist in. Gone too far, and
No, I understand what you're saying. I do get what you're saying, but where the information comes through, if you're talking about entanglement, it's probably quite a good analogy, because that is anyway. Good evening, Claire.
Good evening.
Oh, thank you so much for joining us tonight on the Spirit Dimension.
That's all right.
It's somebody who works incredibly closely with her particular spirit guides. What's your take on spirit guides and how they work? Is it all of us, or is it part of them, part of us, or do they own their own entity?
Right, just bear with me 1 second. I'm playing with my tech. Right, that's better. I can hear you properly now. So what was the question again? How do I work with my spirit guides?
Yeah, are they an extension from yourself, or are they their own entity, or is there a little bit of both in both of you? as it were?
Well, my spirit guides are their own people very much. They have their own identity. They're like members of my family. They're with me every day from the moment I get up in the morning until now when I go to bed and then get back up again to be on the radio.
Thank you so much.
But yeah, they have part, I guess, me so well because they're fine tuned to my needs and what I'm doing within my development, and that's how your spirit guides work. So you'll have your spirit guides will change as you move through, your journey along your life throughout your development. They will change.
Yeah.
So you might have one with you for, I don't know, a couple of years, or you might have one and then it might change after a couple of months. So it just depends where you are in your development.
No, I agree with that because I've had 5 over the time I've been working.
Yeah,
I mean, Ashley,
I'm beginning to lose count.
So you've had a lot more than me now. Ashley, from your perspective, have you never, ever gone down that? Because I know you work in so many different ways. You can't not have tried to explore this side of you.
Don't think so. Not exactly. Not that it's difficult because you guys, the mediums, often tell me that a certain couple of people are often around me, but I don't see them as guides because those two people who Claire are going, oh, it's your granddad's in a second. Those two people, my granddads, basically. I don't see them as guides per se, as everybody else attributes guides, because that's their family role as my granddad, as parents and all that kind of stuff. So there's to pass on information and that kind of stuff. So I kind of, but they don't pass me information. They don't talk to me. They're just around.
But that doesn't mean I have this conversation. Hi, Ash, by the way. Hi,
cousin Claire. My arch nemesis. No, really, I'm joking.
Oh, to you. So I was just going to say, your granddads don't have to be your guides, but we know this,
no.
Right? You have your. Everybody might have their family members around them, and they might. Everybody, I say to people often, you might have granddad with you, or you might have Auntie Jane or whoever with you, guiding you and being supportive of you from the spirit world. But that doesn't make them your guide in your development or in your life. It just means that they are helping to steer you. They are guiding you, but they're not your guide.
Yeah,
that's
a different thing.
Yeah.
It's a completely different thing.
Yeah, it is a completely different thing. It's like, having somebody at work teaching you the ropes, but having somebody that you work with who actually knows nothing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Does
that make sense?
In that case, I've never experienced an interaction or anything like that with any kind of guide, like in that shape or form. No.
Because when I was doing herbology. When I was doing my herbology course, I actually had a different person come through to me when I was working in a spiritual way. And that's something I don't really talk about that often, the fact that I got that skill as well in the herbology side, mainly because I can't retain information, so it was useless to me. But he was like, when I was doing meditations and stuff, that particular guide would be like... when I was doing meditations around that time and stuff, that particular guide was very, very doctory in that way, in regards to herbology, and was helping me work through that course at that time. And whenever I do like a healing session, all of the guides I've ever worked with will come forward and work in unison. And there are some that don't come forward all the time. There's one that's a constant. But there are others that have come in and out at various times. In fact, I had a phone call at like 2:00 in the morning one night from a friend of mine saying, "Will you must just do your meditation. I've got your guide here," and he is screaming at me to wake you up and tell you to get on and do this meditation working that you're supposed to be doing. And I was like, okay, fine. Thanks very much for that. 2:00 in the morning. Cheers. But he actually went through a different person to actually get me to do the work that I needed to do at that time. And that was quite bizarre. That's the first time that had happened to me. And it's not, none of my guides are family members or people that I've ever met in life, that I know of anyway, in this life.
No, mine aren't either. I mean, I've been aware of my granddad around me a lot, and my dad at times as well. But just to support me, just as, you know, yeah, you're okay, you're doing the right thing. You need to listen to these guys. These guys are, you know, doing these. Listen to what they're telling you. You know, that's how it works for me as well. Yeah. But you know, I'll get a message. You know, I tend to talk to my guides, my actual guides, people helping me, telling me what I need to do next. Sit down, right, do this, do that, every day. So, you know, that's not Grandad. That's the other people in charge of me.
That's it. But like earlier on, I was talking. I was writing to somebody, and it just flows through. And I can't tell you which guide that is or who that is is telling me to put those words down or how those words come. But it's like I've talked to you before now, Claire, and you go, I go a bit distant. But it's not like I know who that is who's doing that, but it just seems to flow. And that's how I find that they work through me, is by doing that. And I'm not aware necessarily of who that is. It's just how that flows and how that comes through. So,
how did you become aware of your guides?
Oh, the first time was just doing through meditation. I would go into, when I very first started, and this is going back, oh my God, quite a few years now. Sorry, snotty nose. I went to a development circle, and we were trying all different kinds of tools and stuff, and tarot was the first place I sort of like started working. And then we would do guided meditations. And basically it's creating that sacred space within your mind that's like your safe zone for meditation. And then you're told to like recognise any changes that go on around you. And then all of a sudden there was just this person there. And that was sort of like the first time I sort of came across one of my guides, who's like the one that's been there all the time. And
so you put yourself in a moment where you made your mind still and you put yourself in the space and kind of opened up to what else is there.
Yeah, it's just like, I suppose people call it your sacred space or your happy space.
Yeah.
And some people it's, you know, in all sorts of different things.
See, for me, it wasn't like that.
No. How was it for you?
So for me, because okay, stay on the page.
Sorry.
For me, because I've learned a lot by myself as I've gone along. Because I'm, you could tell am I self-taught? I don't know. I just have this gift and I just go with it. And I just read a book one day. I was reading this book, and in the book there was a particular chapter about how to connect with your spirit guide, and there was step-by-step instructions in the book. You know, sit down quietly, a bit like what you're saying, I guess. Give yourself a bit of a sacred space, except it didn't say it like that. It just said, sit down quietly, give yourself 5 minutes, and then just still your mind and ask for the person in charge of your development to step forward. And that's what I did. And I've never looked back. No, and now they just turn up, they just change, to their whoever they think I need, that's the person that's there.
That's really that then doesn't buy into what Ashley was saying earlier, does it, Ashley? Because
what's that?
What you said earlier about you said that it's something you create for yourself. Your spirit guide appears to you in almost like a manifestation of what you make within your mind.
Yeah, I mean, is it a possibility? I mean, I'm just theorising, I suppose. Throwing ideas as I usually do. Is it possible that because of we have an extensive unconscious mind, not conscious mind, by the way, and because in ways to access that we've created these guides, and they have grown personalities, and then they pass information that way, and because we're more likely to trust an individual and a personality that we gain trust with then that we're more likely to accept information from our unconscious mind than through that conduit, if you like. So is that not a possibility? I mean, that's just an idea that I put out there.
But Kerry's already said that she got a guide that she banished.
Yeah.
Because she was scared of it. So how does that go with we?
It doesn't necessarily mean it didn't come from your own mind.
Well,
Because I've got a guide who's a ass kicker. And she isn't somebody that I would ever have thought would have turned up ever, really. But because of what I was doing, with the work that I was doing at the time, that's where she came from. She's helped me with that. So it's all really, there's so many.
It's a difficult one, isn't it?
Yeah.
Richard Clements has put one into the chat room. He said, why is it that spirit guides seem to be predominantly male energies? Or am I wrong in thinking that? I actually think you are wrong in that.
Yeah, you are wrong. Sorry.
Yeah, I, in my opinion, I think you're wrong in that. However, what I have noticed is that male mediums seem to have one particular guide that they will work with very, very closely, whereas women seem to have a bigger variety.
See, that feeds back into my theory, though, doesn't it? Because the way that males and females use both sides of their brain and stuff like that is completely different, and would help with that, because the female mind is more getting caught in much sexual about it. Is more creative. it's more creative, though, isn't it? Rather than logical. So the male mind runs with a more logical process, so that it'll go with one person, one piece of information makes sense. Whereas the female mind can then create personalities in order to fix certain things to present different parts of information, if that makes sense. See where I'm coming from?
Yeah, I do. I understand what you're saying, but it could also be there are differences between males and females. There are physiological differences between them, and it could be the way that men, without saying derogatory at all,
Don't feel like Kerry.
tend to form on a very strong link with a very small number of people, whereas women will be more open. Nothing to do with imagination, it's just how the sexes work, possibly.
Yeah, no, I could accept that.
So men wouldn't be so easy to accept new guides coming in and out. There'll be a level of distrust there, and that bond needs to be created, whereas girls will more easily bond with people. There are exceptions to every rule, I know that, so I'm not talking very general, but very strong.
Actually, does make sense though. What you're saying does make sense.
So what?
it does make sense. Kerry, what Kerry's saying makes sense.
Oh right, yeah.
Because men do. It's easier for them to trust the same person, isn't it? More over time, whereas women are more. I don't know. What I was going to use. I don't know what word to use, but we're more trusting, aren't we? I suppose.
I would say in general.
Yeah.
We're more likely to forgive somebody's transgressions than men are. So if you form a strong bond with one of your spirit guides, and something happens...
There's bugs on the line.
Oh, lovely. Please don't mess my signal up now, guides. As bad enough as it is. I'm struggling. I'm struggling with this one because I know that there are differences. I mean, I've looked into. I did a show once regarding the differences between male and female in regards to paranormal investigation and the physiological differences between men and females. And this had nothing to do with personality. It was purely a physiological differences. Was astonishing. There was a lot more than I actually realised.
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying as well. Neurologically speaking, as well, the brain. That's the physiological side of it. Is wired differently and stuff like that. I believe. Again, stuck my little caveat in there. I'm not an expert, so don't come down and be like bricks.
No, none of us are experts in this show tonight. Actually, we're just flying by the seat of our pants.
But yeah, so. But that makes perfect sense. I think that does make perfect sense. Not the I've looked into it. It'd be interesting to look into it, actually, to be fair. But then if you said you looked into, so what aspects did you look into physiologically in regards to investigating then?
It was just what were the differences? Who makes the better investigator, basically? I can't remember the details off the top of my head now. Honestly, my head is like fog. But there were real big differences. But there is a really well-known clip out there. I believe it was a TED Talk. I quite like them. And it showed basically they demonstrated the differences. But men have boxes. They have to have a box. There's a car box and a work box and a family box and a wife box, and none of those boxes sort of like meet. And then women, it's just like a mass of wires that interconnect, and it all is. And that's why there's so many differences in, women can famous women can multitask, men can't. Men can to a point, but not at the level that women can because of the neurological differences between men and women. I'm now going to try and find this link that detailed the differences between men and women in the paranormal field. But do you see what I mean?
Yeah, but this is also something that's built that goes back to the beginning of the show when we were talking about belief systems and education and experiences and stuff like that. These setups neurologically are all set up from an early age when we teach our kids and how we teach our kids and the methods. I mean, the simplest example is when a child's born or when a child's young. There's the colour scheme, the blue and the pink. There's the toys that we give them, as in like boys will get. There's 100 million brilliant toys in Toys R Us for boys, like from Lego to cars and that kind of stuff. And girls are predominantly pushed down that doll route. But then, I mean, today it's getting a bit better, to be fair. So, but that was the sort of the old school way of doing it, and that moves on up through everything, through schooling and into like work and everything, doesn't it, as well? So we kind of create those links neurologically as those social sort of elements are built as people grow within their lives, so to speak, and that's where their experiences come from, and that's why those probably set up that way. I mean, you can probably reprogram, without sounding wrong or sci-fi a bit there, but you could probably reprogram a mind if you knew how to backtrack several years of misprogramming, so to speak. I think it'd probably be a bit unethical, wouldn't it, to start from scratch with a new child or something? But
well, no, you can bring them up in a non-gendered way. I mean, that's becoming more of a thing these days.
It is coming more of a thing these days. Yeah, so that's something that we might see more in the future. So we might see complete change in the future where things are a bit more, without sounding wrong, but gender neutral, so to speak. So I
don't actually believe that you can change. I think a boy is a boy and a girl is a girl, no matter what you do to it, society-wise. We watched a documentary, and I can't remember. It was Mary. Is it Mary Portis, the woman that does all the retail and all of that stuff?
Mary Portis.
And she, I think my mum was telling me about it. That she used to her own children or somebody else's children, but they basically got like a big box of toys, and they bought girls' toys and boys' toys. If you want to, make them different like that, boys' toys, cars and stuff, girls like pink dollies and whatever, dolls' houses, lipstick, that sort of thing, and put them in the room, and they mixed them up, and they dressed like action men in pink dresses and stuff, and but the boys were like, why they were still picking up the boys' toys. They were like, why have you dressed this in pink? Why have you done to this, Mum? Why have you tried to dress it up like a girl? And she was like, well, don't you want to play with it? No, I don't want to play with it. It's dressed in pink. But they obviously saw the difference themselves. It wasn't something, that they put in their mind.
But that proves my point, though, doesn't it? Because at that age, they've already been socially sort of conditioned to see that point as that pink is wrong. We can't say. There was a famous experiment done that I can't actually remember the name of, but it was with chimpanzees, and they've done a similar thing with the toys, dolls and cars and stuff, and gave them to a bunch of chimpanzees. Now, funnily enough, and really enough, it kind of goes against my own argument here, but the chimpanzees, I think, if I remember rightly, and I'd have to look it up to be right, but I think the boys went for the boys' toys and the girls went for the girls' toys, which kind of suggests that it's an inbuilt thing. But then you don't know what these also are chimpanzees that are in like a zoo kind of thing, so they might have observed boys and girls going past with these kind of toys anyway. So you don't know what's going on there. So without starting completely from scratch in an isolated situation, I don't think we could 100% prove either way. But
wasn't there an experiment where they took a load of baby children and brought them up in a village with no standardised form of religion, no standardised form of education, and literally allowed the children to do exactly what they wanted to do and see if any kind of psychic abilities or any of those things started to manifest, because they hadn't been brought up in regards to any form of
social
society.
Yeah. So they literally just took care of. They just took care of their needs. I don't think it was actually conclusive in any way whatsoever. I think there was a certain amount of. I can't remember. It was a long, long time ago. I read that when I was learning sociology, and it was a long, long time ago that I read about that study. But I don't think it actually came up with any conclusive results in regards to, yes, they all developed psychic abilities, or whether or not they had natural gender tendencies. I don't believe that there was much difference, and because gender and conditioning was something we were looking at in regards to psychology and sociology that I studied. On a very basic level, I would just like to point that out. Back in the day, so that is going back an awful long time. I'm literally clawing at the back of my brain for that one. I'd have to look into that one a bit deeper again, because that is tickling my brain cells about that particular study. But Richard says we should get Ashley to do an investigation in a dress and see what kind of data he could collect that way.
I
think let's just say it would distract everyone else.
We'd all be laughing too much to be able to work in any way. But that leads us on to an interesting concept, though. I mean, we've talked about the Singapore theory on quite an awful lot of times in regards to investigating and actually setting the scene. How does that affect your own mental mindset, though? If you're dressed a specific way, do you think it does encourage spirit to come forward, or does that change your mindset as a medium, or however it is you're working, into a different form?
That's a good question.
And we can both answer it, can't we, Claire?
Yeah, we can.
Go on then, you two.
Well, when we have done that, haven't we?
Yes, we have. Yes.
Yes. And it certainly made me feel different. I was not myself at all. Because we should explain. You explain, Ashley. Explain.
Right. I've done a Singapore theory Victorian seance at Swanage at the Royal Oak pub. And basically we all dressed up in Victorian clothing, but we also tried to do the seance as close to a Victorian seance as we can. So I made it like a proper kind of like event, like with a sort of like, so we congregated in the bar area of the pub first and spoke and talked and interacted and all that kind of stuff. We set up a separate seance room that no one saw until we went in there at the right time. And in that room, it was all dressed pretty much like a Victorian sort of seance room with a round table in the middle with bits around of it. So we had I think we had a Bible from that was related to Victorian times as well, and there was a candlestick with like 3 candles on it as well in the middle of the table, like a proper candles. And I think we even had some food in there as well, which was also believed to draw the spirits closer, because obviously it's familiar smell. We had fresh cut flowers, all these kind of things as well. So it was all set up. It was all monitored and videoed as well. And obviously we all were dressed in Victorian clothing. And we went in and started the seance and done all that kind of stuff, and it was pretty interesting, I think, to be fair. Like Claire said, some people didn't quite feel themselves and stuff like that. We had a fantastic trance medium called Mo who connected with various different spirits. And oddly enough, I was watching one of the video extracts from this the other day, and he picked up on some... picked up isn't the right word. It's channeled, I suppose, is a better way of putting it. Some interesting spirits that came through and talked to us and stuff as well. I had another wonderful medium there called Terry, who helps with all that kind of stuff, and obviously we had Claire there as well, and the pub landlady and all that kind of stuff, and a number of other people as well. So yeah, we had quite a few people there, so it was a bit of an event, and it was all dressed up, and it was really interesting, really good, and like Claire said, she didn't feel herself.
I didn't feel myself right from the minute I got changed. I didn't feel like into my Victorian clothing. It just everybody was in their gear, their Victorian wear, and it did change the whole kind of vibe in the place. And I mean, maybe it's because I'm a medium. Maybe I was a little bit more sensitive to what I was picking up. I don't know, but I certainly did not feel myself. I felt like there was somebody else well and truly connected to me, and it did make me feel so different because of what I was wearing. I just can't quite put my finger on it, but it was really good, very interesting.
It's a fascinating concept when you do take it out into the field. The nearest we came, or I've come to working the Singapore theory, was basically at a Air Force base, and we were just using things, like music and stuff like that, to see if that would elicit a response, like air raid sirens and Vera-Lynn in the mess hall and stuff like that. And that definitely strengthened the connection, because they could... Sorry.
The audio seems to be one of the best and simplest forms to do the Singapore theory. I've had fantastic results using, like you just said, air raid sounds and stuff like that. Music is a fantastic one. If you can get music from a certain era, it seems to resonate brilliantly and get some excellent results. So,
I totally agree. I do totally agree with that. But when even in this day and age, music elicits such an emotional response in people. It is a well-known phenomena within people in general that music can make you aggressive, or it can make you cry, or it can make you laugh, and you associate memory to music on a tremendous front, doesn't it? So if you are existing after death, then why not? Why wouldn't that have the same effect? I know if they were playing my favourite drum and bass, I'd be there on that Rayfield. Do you know what I mean? If that was the case.
I can't hear you.
Oh no, Claire. Bless you.
The gremlins are on the line, and you keep disappearing.
Oh dear. But no, I think music is a huge factor. Or sound, actually, not just music, but sound is a huge factor in that. I mean, in the work that I do, sound is one of the clearest, best ways to actually retune your crystals with, using singing bowls or ting-ting bells, or even just a tuning fork will do it. So, and I was sent a meditation the other day, and it is literally just vibrational tone that is supposed to reset your soul vibration, because apparently I need that.
There's been research, isn't there, into audio frequencies as well?
There is a lot of research on audio frequencies. And we only hear a small, again, the same with the light spectrum, we only hear a small amount of the sound spectrum that there is out there as humans. We only hear a small amount.
That's very true.
Because if you think of dogs, dog whistles, we can't hear dog whistles. Talking of which, allegedly, not dogs, sound frequency, your sound frequency changes as well as you get older. I mean, obviously, as you get older, your sound, your hearing deteriorates. But when you're younger, you hear at a different sound frequency to what you do through adulthood.
The Asbo sound effect.
Yeah. This is a thing, apparently. My kids went crazy the other day, going, "Oh my God, can't you hear that?" I'm like, "Oh, stop it. Stop being so silly." Thinking they were really trying to wind me up, because they're a pair of right little wind-ups. And it's not. There was something attached to this house that was sending out a frequency that stopped, that they could hear and I couldn't. I told them they were both dogs.
No, there's a thing that came out years ago now. I don't know whether it was actually sanctioned and still right, but I think it was to stop kids hanging around certain shops and stuff like that. What they've done is they come up with this audio thing that only affects people up to, I think it's like the age of 21, 22 or something like that. I don't know exactly, but it's like early 20s basically. So it meant that the teenage kids would go up to these shops, and this sound effect would be on playing, like you obviously like your boys picked up on, and then it would drive them so wild that they just go, right, we're going to go somewhere else. And it was a real thing, which means, like you said, obviously as you grow older, you hear different frequencies of sound and stuff like that, which means there's obviously the sound frequency is obviously sound, and obviously if you play a frequency of sound at the right sort of like level and all that kind of stuff, it can vibrate. It can actually do a lot of damage. I think there's actually researchers into audio as a weapon at one point as well.
That's right. Yeah.
So
that's right.
It's
that kind of makes me think about my medium radio frequency.
Yeah.
Yeah. No. Yeah.
In that, that we tune in, don't we, on a frequency? I hear spirit on my frequency. I might not hear them saying the same thing that you hear, Kerry, because you might be on a slightly different frequency to me.
Yeah,
it's like exactly. A radio, isn't it?
That's right. I've heard that analogy before. It's like a wireless, a badly connected wireless, which is why sometimes the message doesn't always translate through of what they're saying. Usually you're trying to like patch together bits of a conversation because the frequency sometimes goes in and out.
What you were saying about having it sound that you could only hear like up to the age of 21 or something. I'm like, God, I'm on this been on this frequency for quite a few years. But actually, when I was before I was in my 20s, the frequency was a hell of a lot clearer, and it's taken me a long time. And then I dropped my frequency, and then it's taken me a long time to get that clarity back again. So there is something in what you're saying.
Oh, I think so. But this is something that actually came out quite a long time ago by Tesla. What did he say about it? Think in terms of frequency. Oh, God, come on, help me out.
Oh, I know. Yeah, I know what you mean. Oh,
think in terms of frequency. Oh, it's such a well-known quote.
Yeah, because he was like he was thinking about picking up information from like outer space and all that kind of stuff. And I think it also led to his arch nemesis. I think at the time was Edison, wasn't it? He then was thinking about things like the telephone to the dead, which later become the skull experiments, TDC.
Yeah.
So but Tesla has a very famous quote about the thing in terms of frequency and all that
energy,
kind of
frequency, and vibration. Sorry,
yes,
got it. Sorry, it just came to me. Energy, frequency, and vibration.
Yeah, So he knew about Tesla. He was a remarkable guy, to be fair.
Oh God,
even if he did have a bit of an affair with a pigeon, or whatever it wasn't at the end.
Pardon?
He had a bit of a fascination for a pigeon that sat on his windowsill, didn't he? At the end, they thought he was going a bit bonkers. Not like that, Kerry.
Oh, I was going to say, clarify that point. Why does everyone think I've got a dirty mind? I really don't understand it. Anyway, guys, we are actually coming to the end of the show on that note. on the pigeon fact. Oh my God. We're so sorry that Mr. Cal Cooper couldn't join us tonight, but I do really, really thank Claire and Ashley for joining me in the studio tonight and having this ad hoc brainstorming, mind-dumping session that we've done tonight. Thank you so much for joining me, guys. You saved my life tonight. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, you're fine.
I do really, really appreciate it. Oh, my goodness. Now, on Parasearch next week, tomorrow evening, we have the Parasearch UK radio show. We have Mark Manley in the studio. And as always, that turned it into mayhem and madness, I think is the only way to describe it. On Tuesday, the Paranormal Concept Show. I'm with Paul Rook discussing our top 10 favourite Christmas films, and we're currently arguing over who can have what films. Oh, dearie me. On Wednesday is the Haunted History Show. On Thursday, Kaz Rooney is in the studio with her Spectral Zone. And on Friday, join us for hopefully a full presenter paranormal quiz to round it off before we all take a break, which I think we need for Christmas. And on that note, thanks, guys. Are you going to say good night?
Thanks,
good night. Thanks, Kerry. Thanks for having us.
You're welcome. Thank you for joining me. And good night.
Night.
Thank you for listening. Don't forget to join us for more shows throughout the week. Find us on Facebook, Twitter, and the World Wide Web to keep up to date with all the shows right here on Parasearch Radio.